Hey Facebook, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening everybody. We're just gonna share out real quick.
We had some technical difficulty on Monday.
Yes we did.
Facebook thought we were getting hacked. They wanted nothing to do with anything that we had going on here.
That is the truth. That is the truth. Let me see. I'm trying to share.
Me too.
So come on in and share out, because this is going to be some good information. If you're looking to buy this year and you need to know about the different loan types, FHA, conventional, then this is going to be a good chat tonight.
For sure.
We're going to start or talk about like what is the skinny on FHA loans, because maybe if you're in the real estate world, you kind of know that there's been a difference maybe being discussed.
Well, and especially if you're a buyer, those FHA buyers are having such a hard time getting offers accepted. And a lot of times there's so many myths about FHA and things that maybe you heard from your great aunt, your grandma, whoever, who says, listen, these are a nightmare, stay away from them. And everything loan-wise and lending has evolved so much that they're really super easy loans to close. And a lot of them provide a better rate and a lesser down payment.
See that?
So it's like...
So that's what we're going to talk about this evening, because there's just been like some murky conversation about the difference between FHA and conventional, where it just began to like kind of bug at me a little bit, because a lot of my buyers are FHA buyers and they are qualified to buy. And so we just wanted to talk this evening, just what the skinny is. Let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Expose it almost. Real scandalous, like.
There's enough scandals in the world.
Right.
But I did put two, so if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments. We're going to try to watch two as we're going through, so we can answer those too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, Sarah, talk to us. Like, help us how about if we start, like, what is an FHA loan? What is it?
An FHA loan, it's a government-backed loan. So, typically with that, you have different types of financing. So, the government loans are FHA, VA, which is more for veterans and military, USDA, which is in rural areas. So, here in Mercer County, you're looking at really any place other than Hermitage. For the most part, there's a handful of houses that fit into it. Hermitage, Farrell, Sharon, Wheatland, those more city-like areas are not going to qualify for USDA. So FHA is by far the most common. And what's nice about them is that they are the most relaxed when it comes to guidelines as far as debt to income and credit. So a lot of the other forms of financing, it's a little bit more strict. You have to have maybe a higher credit score. So if you had anything that happened in your life that you're currently rebounding from, it's harder to get the other types of financing. Whereas with FHA, they're a little more lenient, where you can go down to a 580 credit score, and we can lend to that.
You said 580.
580.
And 580 credit score, y'all.
So, right, and the thing is you may have heard from places where, like, no, FHA only goes down to a 620, or it goes to a 640, or whatever it is, but those are bank overlays. So what that means is the guideline might say it'll go down to a 580, but a bank might say, okay, we get that, but we want to be more secure in our investment. So we want you to have a 620 or a 640 or whatever. And it's the same with debt to income. The guideline is up to 57% or 56.99.
Okay.
But you hear a lot of times where people are like, no, it has to be at 43, 45, 49. And that's just an overlay. So
that's the bank kind of covering themselves.
A little CYA. So that's what it is. So you have people who apply for these loans who are qualified, but they're just getting turned down left and right because they're not going to the right place, or they're going to a lender that might be a little more strict.
That's good information.
Yeah, it's always good info.
Oh my gosh. Guys, like if you are in the market to buy, and when I say that, I mean like you've been having thoughts like, okay, rent is through the roof right now. You know, is it possible for you to get a mortgage with a lower monthly payment? Yeah, it is possible. So, and that's what we're talking about today. Sarah just told us that we could go down to a 580 credit score with a debt to income that, you know, of course she would have to, you know, look at those numbers and see what that looks like. But if you're on the fence, it does not hurt to reach out, you know, and ask some questions, you know, so that you can get some definite answers instead of saying, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. Let's start a plan. You know, let's start a plan.
Yeah, and that's really such a huge deal because, and I hear that all the time for, well, two things that you said. You know, everything's going up right now, and rent is no exception. So rent is going through the roof, and you can buy a house and build wealth in an investment for yourself.
Yes.
Or you can pay your rent that just keeps going up, and you can build wealth and investment for your landlord.
Absolutely.
So that's the one thing. But the other thing too is, it's like, you know, I talk to so many people and they're like, well, I got turned down and they said I have to work on my credit. But it's like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, nobody knows because they don't do it every day.
Right.
It's just like, if you ask me how to make a 3-tiered wedding cake and get it to not fall over, I'm not your girl. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to know, and it's our job to counsel you to help with that. So that way, you know, you do the right thing, you help people get into homes, and it's going to build wealth for them.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And that's key, like knowing that you're now the lord of your land. You know, no one else is lording over your land. You are the landlord. And knowing that it is possible to achieve that, because you're already paying to live, you know, where you live. So this is great. This is great information. Great information. So kind of, what else about FHA should we know?
So I'm trying to think of like what would be like the myth busters, so to speak. So when people, whether it's clients, realtors, anyone, they're like, oh, we're pre-approved for FHA, it's instant that someone might be like, ooh, FHA, like that's, you know, those aren't good loans, or they're so hard to deal with, or whatever. And it really is just not the case. Not at all. I mean, there are some differences. So with FHA, the main differences are the appraisal's a little bit more strict. And by more strict, it's not really crazy things, right? You can't have any safety issues, which you can't have with a conventional loan either.
Very true.
So if a basement's wet, or if there's a foundation issue, it has to be looked at no matter what the loan type is. Right? If there's mold in the house, no matter what the loan type is, like that's a safety issue, so it has to be addressed. But with FHA, where it differs is, you know, if there's chipped or peeling paint, or if there's, you know, a handrail that might be missing.
Right.
Those things need to be corrected. The misconception is that they have to be corrected before closing. So, and again,
misconception.
This is a lender thing, right? Because not every lender will let you escrow. And what escrow means is, so say it's the middle of winter, or say it's now and you're dealing with an estate. The estate doesn't want the liability. They don't want anybody to come in the house to do anything because their attorney's like, you can't do it, it's an estate.
Right.
What you would do is the appraisal comes in, says chipped and peeling paint. You know, it has, I mean, all over the place. The trim, the side of the house, the garage that everybody has from 1972 around here.
Garage.
You know, all of the things. The window trim, all you have to do is get a guaranteed bid from a contractor for the amount, and we can hold that money in escrow, let the loan close. So the buyers get to move in, the sellers sell their house, they get their check, you move in, we have the contractor come out and paint it after closing, and then we square up after that. So all of the FHA issues that everyone's worried about are really just non-issues.
Right.
It doesn't even matter, because as long as it's not a safety issue, you can escrow for it and take care of it after closing. So that's the thing that people are so worried about when they're looking at between FHA and conventional. But it's a moot point. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You know?
And I think that's where so many get caught up, because not only could you escrow for those repairs, but the buyer can also take responsibility to get those things done,
Right.
but in order to close. So
Yeah.
it's not always an issue to where, if a conventional offer comes in or if an FHA offer comes in, it's okay, how can we negotiate this to see if the buyer would take care of all FHA repairs?
Right, and that can even be built into the contract. Like, if something comes up, the buyer assumes all responsibility, as long as it's not foundation or
Right.
anything major like that.
Right.
But I mean, honestly, who cares about chipped or peeling paint?
Right.
Like, who cares? Who cares if it needs a GFI? Like, they'll just get it fixed.
Right.
I mean, people know how to fix these things. If you have a loan commitment, if everything else is great, and all you're waiting for is some trim to be painted, paint the trim.
Right.
Like, who cares?
I mean, just
And
paint
not
it.
to be, but you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter.
Like,
It's
it
just,
could be that simple, is what you're saying. Like,
It-
it doesn't have to be as dramatic and drastic that some may make it seem.
Yeah, and I think too, that's where dealing with a good lender, dealing with a good realtor, I mean, you can say something 5 different ways, and it can be taken 5 different ways, right? So if you're not dramatic about it, like, people are afraid of the word negotiation.
Right.
It's not a huge deal. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Like, you just take care of it.
No, I mean, you just do it. I mean, just like Nike, like, you just get it done. Great question, Mandisa. So she's asking, can you explain debt to ratio a little more? How much should you have saved, like, for down payment and closing?
Sure. So your debt to income ratio, there's 2 different ones. So if you talk to a lender, somebody might say, well, your housing ratio is good, but your overall debt is too high. So what that means is they take, say it's 24/48. So 48 is your debt to income ratio as a whole, which is mostly what people are going to be referring to. That takes your projected house payment, the taxes, the homeowner's insurance, if you have PMI, that takes all of that into consideration and adds it into your current debt. So they take your gross income and you divide that debt into it, and that's how you come up with your debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So one of the big things that I've noticed that differs whenever we're pulling credit or doing different things are people with student loans.
Got it.
So student loans have been in deferment since COVID, and I think there's still, most of them are deferred until the end of this year or September, but who knows, it could get extended again.
Right.
Even though the payment's 0, most places make you put in a payment of 1% of the balance. So if you have we'll just say $1,000 loan, you have to put in a $10 payment. That's 1% of the balance.
Okay.
The guideline is half of that. So just imagine if you had, a $250,000 loan and you're putting in 1%, that can throw your debt to income ratio way out of whack compared to if you're only using half.
Sure.
So that's one thing that's a huge thing. But even so, I mean, people co-sign for each other. They help their kids, or they help their parents, or they help a sister or a brother. They might have debt on there that is not even theirs. So FHA allows you to show, okay, we're not making this payment. They haven't missed any payments in 12 months. Somebody else has made that payment consecutively. They can exclude that from their debt.
Got it.
So it comes down to really knowing what the guidelines and the rules are. But as far as debt to income goes, they're looking at your gross income as to what you make, and then they're comparing that to what your current debt is, plus the projected mortgage payment.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Mandisa, what do you think? Did that help? That's good.
Yeah, and a lot of it's going to be case by case too when you're
Sure.
looking at it. Sometimes you might have something, so like buying things through a firm right now. That's a huge thing people are doing.
Mhm.
And they might have a $600 balance with a payment of $128. I mean, that $128, you can just have them pay that off and it frees that much money up. And that
Very
makes
true.
a huge difference.
Very
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
'cause I've seen you've had clients be like, hey, pay this credit card down to this or pay it
Yeah.
off, and then we can go from there.
yeah, it depends on how much buying power you want. So
Mhm.
if you're okay with where you're at, you just can't afford that much of a house,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But if you do want it, we just pay it off at closing. So you don't have to do anything fancy. You get a bill, you send it in to us, and at closing, then you take that money and the title company pays it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's really good. Okay, good. She said yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Great. And also, oh geez, what was I about to say? Just about the debt to income. So, and what you can also do is those who may not be ready to buy, there's a plan that could be made, right?
Absolutely.
In order to move forward.
So one of the things that we do, and I worked for a bank for 10 years, right? And so you couldn't advise them. They didn't have the different tools where you could say, okay, if you do this and this,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, your credit score is going to increase and it's going to take this much time. But one of the things that Waterstone offers is we do credit repair. So once we pull your credit, say it's below 580,
Mhm.
where, you know, you have to be, then we can go in and simulate it and work directly with the bureau to see, okay, well, if it's here, maybe you don't have a lot of debt established. It's not always that you have bad credit.
Right.
Sometimes it's just that you don't have any credit. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, this is what you need to do. It's going to take 2 or 3 months worth of time, and then you'll be good to go.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a matter of paying something off. And sometimes, believe it or not, and this sounds crazy, everyone has everything paid off. Sometimes I'm like, you got to go put $20 on your credit card.
Right.
Because when it sits there dormant,
Yep.
the credit bureau is like, are they using this? Is it just sitting there? Like, what's going on? So they weigh it a little differently.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's a whole different kind of things that, you know, you can do. It just depends on the person and the situation.
Yeah. Okay, so do the hard impacts on credit report affect buyers with getting, I guess, lending, like getting a mortgage?
Good question. So, and I get this all of the time. Is it a hard pull or a soft pull?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm like, well, if you want pre-qualified, it's a hard pull.
Right.
But here's the thing. If you're getting an inquiry here and there, or if you're mortgage shopping, they really allow you to have 3 or 4. They're not going to say anything within a certain time period. Usually
Mhm.
it's 2 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change your score. So what changes it, sometimes if you go buy a car, they're going to run it through 10 places.
Yes,
That's
they
going to
are.
drop it. Plus they're establishing a new debt generally. So that's going to drop it. 'Cause it's a brand new trade line, which is what the debt is called.
Mhm.
So that would drop it. But the reason why it differs in places like Credit Karma and Experian One and all of the different things, they're very good for monitoring your score, but they have their own software that basically guesses what it's going to be. So like somebody might call and say, well, on Credit Karma it says my score is a 702, and then I might pull it and it might be a 640.
Right.
Because they're basically guessing based off of their software. And sometimes it's
Wow.
close, but 95%. It's like going to WebMD for a diagnosis. Like you're probably going to go to your
Oh,
doctor.
You can't go to WebMD.
Listen, not unless you want to find out every which way that it's not good.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
Right. I've self-diagnosed before, so.
My husband, and I hope he's not watching, but my husband he's a self-diagnoser all day
Yeah.
long. He's like, I think I'm gonna, like, this isn't good for me. I'm like, I think it's gonna be fine. Put some tussin on it.
Right,
you know?
right. So you're
But-
saying Credit Karma is that? Like it's just,
Yeah, it's good for monitoring for fraud, but it's
Mm.
not great for giving you an accurate score.
Got it.
So, and that's what a lot of people, they get turned down, they get told to work on their credit, but they're like, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
So they start paying off medical collections and little things from Sprint or whatever, and those don't even really affect your score 99% of the time.
Right.
So you can pay off all of those medical collections and your score is going to stay the same.
That would be heart-wrenching.
It would be because these are folks who are trying to save, they're trying to do all the right things,
right.
And then they just spent money on everything, which it's the right thing to do to pay it off.
Sure.
But if your goal is to buy a house and to do it soon, it's not something that's necessary right now.
Right.
You know?
It's good, but it wouldn't be effective for where you're going.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. And from research, I see that a credit card is important. How many should you have and utilize, and should it be secured?
So if you have bad credit, or not even bad credit, like a low score, the easiest way to get your credit to come up and the fastest is to do a secure card. It doesn't have to be for a huge amount. If you have absolutely no credit at all, I would say try to do 2, because the more things that you have showing, the better. But it's, when we are helping folks go through this and we do the simulation, it's loading it with maybe $300, and that's it. I mean, you don't have to put thousands of dollars on a card. You can preload it with $300, and then you want to spend like $20 a month on it.
Yeah.
So, and keep it going. So when you pay off the $20, go put $20 of gas in there. It might get you to the other side of town. Then pay that off. Do the same thing over and over and over again. So it's consistency and time showing not only that you have a bill, that you're charging on it, you're using it, you're not going crazy with it, and you're paying it off.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what shows and gets your score up, and you can go from having no score to a 700 score in a matter of 3 months.
Wow.
I mean, like, it's crazy how fast it works just by doing a few basic things. But no, the secured cards are anymore, that's the easiest way to do it, because folks don't know if you're going to pay your bill, so they don't want to give you something that's not secured. So it's an easy thing to do. I know Capital One has one that's great that we've used before. Credit One's the same way. So
okay,
yeah,
great. I mean, that's great information. But of course, it's a case by case situation.
Yep, absolutely.
So it just depends on where you are in your journey and what you need. And that's why what Sarah's saying is like Credit Karma may not be what you need at if you're looking to buy a home. That may not be the the medium to use to see what your credit score is.
Right.
And so it would be to contact a Sarah Cipriano and talk to her and see how or where you are, in order for her to be able to tell you where you're going or where you're not going. It just depends.
Yeah, and some things they take time, I mean, there's people, and we've had clients jointly where, I mean, it takes, sometimes it takes a month or a week, and sometimes it takes a year or 2, and you're just constant counseling them, and this is something that we do free of charge, which is probably why a lot of places don't do it.
Right.
Because there's nothing in it for, and not to sound this, there's nothing in it for us. It's just the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's the right thing to do to help people, because if you don't help them, who's going to help them?
Right.
And they want to do and be better.
Absolutely.
And a house is a great thing to have.
Man, like literally you could build wealth in real estate. Like it's so fascinating and mind-blowing at the same time how you can create wealth with real estate.
It's true. And and of course right now the hot topic is interest rates and the economy and whatever. You always have to pay for some place to live.
Always.
Unless we're the Jeffersons and we're all living together, But you always have to. Now there's young people on here who's like, who are these Jeffersons?
Right.
People,
Who the Jeffersons? We're telling our age.
Yeah. I hear about it. I don't know about it. But no matter what, like you're going to pay somebody to live somewhere. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And as far as the rates go, I mean, rates are relevant. You can't control any of that. They're going to be pretty much the same across the board, no matter what lender you go with. But you just buy within your price range. That's why we do cost sheets. We do a lot of cost sheets.
A lot.
And then the monthly payments you're getting into, and you're comfortable with it. So, I mean, all of the other things just fall into place. It's who do you want to pay?
Right.
And who do you want to benefit, yourself or your landlord?
That's true. That's very true. Because that's what it boils down to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, and this is all just information for, you buyers out there who, are just starting out, or maybe you on your second or third property. It's all relevant for, any buyer, to know that, look, FHA is a great tool. It's a great loan. And it's no less than anything. Because guess what? At the end of the day, whether it's cash or FHA, the seller is getting a check at the table.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're not bringing mattress money to closing. At least we should not be.
Some people try. No.
Right. So either way, that seller is getting a check at the table.
And you're getting, as a buyer, something that you have to show your money for. You know, you sit down at the end of the night and you're like, wow, I did this.
Yep.
And something else, like when it comes to the difference between, and this is, I don't want to say more so for realtors, but people, conventional appraisals and FHA appraisals, sure, FHA is going to ask for no chipped and peeling paint and all that. But Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, part of their software is when an appraiser does an appraisal, if they don't use certain comps that are in the system that line up with the criteria of the house that's being sold, they have to explain why they didn't use it.
Wow.
So whereas with FHA, they can go out and find whatever comps they want. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Why that's important is because it could affect the value. And a lot of people don't know that. So you might have, a conventional loan that they might have to explain comps and change comps on it, that might make the value come in low. Whereas with FHA, they're like, hey, these houses are practically the same. They're a couple streets away from each other.
Yeah.
And that might make all the difference too in the world from renegotiating price. And a lot of people don't know that.
See? FYI.
The more you know.
Yeah, heck yeah. So this is the skinny on FHA loans, and this is why it's so important that we talk about these things and have these types of platforms so that we can get correct information. I mean, because it's been out there. I mean, ever since this, housing market started just flying, it's like, well, they're conventional, they're FHA, like I saw a meme, and it was off the movie Grown Ups, where they were at the water park and his 3 daughters were dressed in different bathing suits.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and the one that looked the most like him had the FHA. She was an FHA loan. I'm like, oh, why do you do FHA like that? That's not right.
It's like the redheaded stepchild of lending, and I don't know. And I think it's just because there's so many misconceptions, and they think, oh my gosh, if there's a repair, the world's it's gonna be over.
Right.
And it just literally, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares?
Right.
Like.
Because if the roof is messed up with the conventional, I still want it fixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the seller, either way, is going to have to deal with the leaking roof. Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but I mean, whether it's FHA appraisal or conventional, if their shingles curl up and an issue, they're going to ask for a roof inspection because it's a safety issue.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it doesn't even matter. The only thing that's different is the chipped and peeling paint, the extension valve, like on the hot water tank. And those are, I mean, we're talking about time and maybe, depending on how much paint you have to buy, maybe $50.
Right.
This is not, it's not really a huge deal.
Yeah. So, look, buyers, if you guys are listening and you've been paying attention to, FHA, because many buyers are FHA buyers, and that's okay. Like, that is all right. So we just heard the skinny on it, like what the real deal on FHA loans is. So, look, you are qualified to buy just like everybody else is.
Amen.
So, don't let nobody tell you different. So, any last words, Sarah? You want to?
No, I mean, I would rather, the only thing I would say is whether you call Fontanese, myself, any lender, anybody who you know, don't just assume anything. Guidelines are forever changing. Down payments amount, they change.
Right.
Grant programs change. All of these things that are available to communities, they're ever evolving. So don't ever just assume something. call, ask questions. Like,
Yes.
that's what people are here for, right? That's what
Yes.
lenders are there for, realtors. I mean, don't just go off of somebody else's experience and what they're saying, because the big thing is you're not getting the whole story of whatever their experience was.
Right.
99% of the time, right? There's their side, this side, and the truth.
And the truth.
So, and that's just what it is. So don't be afraid to ask questions. That's how you find out your answers. And I welcome it all the time. I mean, I like when people are trying to learn.
Sure.
So,
Sure. I mean,
that's it.
Look, if you guys got any more questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat. If not, you're welcome to, we're going to leave this video up for your information. If you have any further questions, just put them in the chat. Sarah and I will see them. And yeah, we just wanted to come and talk with you guys just a little bit about what's going on. So could we like just maybe hit real quick how the market is? Like, the market is still booming.
The market is booming, but I'll tell you, I am seeing a lot more government offers accepted. Like, it's starting to change. And what I've noticed is, and you could probably speak to it a little more, is that, you know, it's getting to be the end of the school year, right? Everyone's so discouraged because houses are coming and going so quick. That's going to change in the next 30 to 45 days. I mean, it's always busy. You're always going to have competition. But there's going to be more that comes on the market. It's just naturally what happens every year. You know, and that's just it. Just don't give up and keep going with it. But I mean, you could probably speak more to how the houses and the offers and stuff have been going. But I have seen more government stuff come through.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely has. FHA has been rocking. I mean, so I'm excited about it because I mean, for me, I think I get a lot of FHA first-time home buyers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when those first-timers get their offer accepted, it's like heaven on earth. Like, I love it. The excitement. It's amazing.
It's exciting, and it's, you know, like I said, don't listen to all the horror stories, because it's all what you make of it. It's what your team does. It's, you know, if you have, and we all have those people, right, in our lives who are like, the sky is falling. You know,
right?
The sky is not falling.
Yeah.
You know, but like you have a good team
intact
around you. You talk, you interview different people, you ask all kinds of questions, because that's what it's about. And you make your income rather than making it somebody else's.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So yeah, but we're always here.
Yeah. So I mean, anytime, like I love what I do. So I'm here, and I love to educate. That's what's important to me, because I think when you make educated decisions, like, you unstoppable. I'm here, Sarah's here, or if you know enough, just get you a good agent and a lender who's a team, like, and can work together and get you the best experience possible. That's
not through an 800 number. That's all I'll say.
No, it ain't gonna happen. Because look, I got stuff to say, but I'm gonna leave that be. Shop
local,
right?
Shop local, just like everything else.
For sure. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and go, and we'll come back soon with a new topic of discussion for real estate, and so that we can keep y'all in the know. So have a good night. Happy Memorial Day. Like, it's
happy Memorial Day.
Yeah.
I know. An extra long weekend. Is that even a thing? I don't think it is.
Not for us today.
But it's gonna be sunny.
It is.
So
it is.
thank you, Lord. It's gonna be sunny.
Yeah. So all right, guys, y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye. Now we gotta figure out.
Finish.